ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages. Welcome to the one, the only, the most epic pro wrestling podcast on the internet. Squared Circle Shenanigans.
We're good. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Squared Circle Shenanigans, episode 52. I am your host, Brother Paul. I've got with me my co-host, Brother Reese. How's it going?
Doing well. How about you?
Doing pretty good as well, as usual. Just living life to the fullest. Today, with us, we have two special guests. Not one, but two, like last week, too. So this week, we have the one and the only, the one and the only, the man himself, Satu Jinn. How's it going? How are you?
Hey, I'm good.
That's awesome to hear. Fantastic. With us as well is the one, the only, the man and the myth himself as well, Mr. Michael Joseph Zodiac. How are you as well?
Use my government name.
That's what I was thrown at me. So I gotta just.
That's all right.
I got.
Use my government name out there.
We'll have the producer cut that little bit out. Michael.
It's on my Facebook page.
Zodiac.
Michael.
Call me Michael.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. So it sounds like we're all having a good day. We're all off to a good start.
Feeling pretty good.
But with that being said, I'm going to go over our sponsors real quick. And then after that, we'll have Reese get into some of his info and questions first. But before that, once again, we'd like to thank all of our sponsors for every single episode that we do, which is the Mint Cannabis Smokers Society, Insane Wrestling Revolution, 8 Mile Vodka, Amaya's Fresh Mexican Grill, Lane's Pizzeria, Little Brown Jug, Cilantro, Pro Wrestling Edge, Craving Sports Cards and Collectibles, Nerdy Designs, and Dudes Talking Wrestling. Thank you all for your love and support on each and every episode. And with that being said, once again, let's get started. Over to you.
Okay, so most of my questions are directed for both of you. So, feel free to who wants to answer first and whatnot. So I want to start with so growing up, did you watch wrestling growing up, like as a kid?
I did.
I'm assuming.
Okay.
I did not.
Okay.
Wow. Okay.
No,
I watched it with my mom. I watched it with my mom all the time, which is kind of crazy. Like, yeah, she was into it. She was a big Hulk Hogan fan. It's kind of crazy.
Nice.
Oh, jeez.
I was a child. I actively avoided anything that wasn't a cartoon. Like anything realistic, I was like, I can see that in real life. I want cartoons.
That's fair.
That's what I did most of my childhood.
That's fair.
Nice. So when you both discovered wrestling, was there a wrestler you grew up admiring or just admired?
Mine, it was funny because, like I said, my mom liked Hulk Hogan and all those guys, right? The big, like, rah-rah babyface type guys. And I liked, like, Jake the Snake Roberts and Andre the Giant and Papa Shango and, like, all the bad guys. So she was like, no, you're supposed to like these guys. I was like, but no, I like these guys. These guys are cool and they win a lot and they beat people up. Randy Savage when he was a bad guy, Rick Rude and all them. So it was like, yeah. That was kind of my thing. Jake with the snake, and then when Undertaker debuted, all that. So I liked all that stuff. And then I got into Japanese wrestling later on, so I liked all the wild gimmicks with that. So like Muda and all them, Liger.
Yeah.
Nice. Was there a wrestler you grew up admiring, or not grew up but admired Satu?
Like the first wrestler I can remember, like enjoying watching. That was like a mainstream wrestler would have to be like Rob Van Dam. That was the first one I was like, yeah, I like wrestling. But then I didn't like wrestling whenever I watched other wrestling.
RVD was cool, but wrestling,
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
I remember first seeing Rob Van Dam, like, because my buddy came to school one day and he was like, you got to watch this ECW wrestling. I was like, what's ECW?
Oh, man. Yeah.
And it was on like channel 25 at 1 a.m. Like you had to scramble the thing to get it to even come in right, and we got watching it like that. And he's like, there's this guy Taz and Tommy Dreamer and Raven. It's like, this dude took a cheese grater to this guy's head and hit him. I was like, you're nuts. Like, what? I got to watch this. Tune into it. And it was just chaos. It was so cool. Though.
Yeah. 100%. That's awesome.
ECW wrestler Rhino owns a promotion here in Monroe.
Yeah.
IWR. And so where'd you both get your training to be wrestlers?
Go for it, Satu.
I trained under a man named Cashflow in Hillview, Kentucky. You may know him from the Wrestlers Netflix special.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's where I started. He ran a school with the promoter, and they ran a promotion called Southern Wrestling Entertainment. I probably trained there for about 3 years, and then the company went under, and they were just like, "You're a professional wrestler now. Have at it," and that's what I did.
Go for it. So I said I found a place in '98 right out of high school. Northern Wrestling Federation up here in Kentucky, in the Cincinnati area. They were running out of Fairfax at the time, but they had a booth at the Richwood Flea Market in Florence. And Prince Justice, who later became Abyss, he was their champ, and he was up there at the flea market. And I got talking to him, and he gave me information for Bone Crushers, which is their wrestling school. So he gave me the contact for that. And Roger Ruffin was like one of the trainers at the time, and he eventually bought it, and he's owned it ever since. Still owns it and runs it. And then Justice Abyss was one of his trainers, and one of his main guys. So I went up there and did a tryout. And at the time, they just had this like Ranky warehouse place up above a little storage place. Oh, it was weird. It was like a big open warehouse area above another warehouse area. You had to go up these metal steps on the side of the building. It was freaking crazy. But it was the coolest thing I had seen walking in. It was like it's a wrestling ring and all this stuff. So they started there. We did a tryout gimmick there. It went fine. And then they ended up shutting that one down, and they moved somewhere else to, I think it was Pinson's Gym in Norwood. And then they trained there for quite a while, and then eventually moved over to Camp Washington over off of Hopple Street in Cincinnati. So, yeah, I spent, trained there from end of '98 to about 2000, and then had my first match at Peel's Palace.
Nice.
And then I was with them for 5-6 years, pretty solid, and then just kind of went out on my own. So
nice. And what was going through your head during your first match?
First match?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, considering it was at Peel's Palace, which was a notorious like wrestling and boxing venue, like Memphis Wrestling came through there, the original MWA, like you name it, they've been through there. So, and that was where I saw my first independent wrestling show too, because Justice gave us a flyer for it, and we came out and watched that. You know, a couple buddies of mine before I decided to go train. So they used to pack like 800-900 people in this place, and it was a big smoky bar with a stage and everything. It was awesome. I wrestled Dirty Chris Hayes,
Nice.
who ran Mountain Wrestling Association in Georgetown and Paris and all through there, Mount Sterling, and his dad ran it before him, and he was my first match, so that was really cool. So doing a different gimmick, I wasn't doing this at the time, so he was the heel, since the heels would typically lead the match and everything else. I was doing like a country gimmick at the time. It was kind of funny, but it was fun. It was fun. Real basic match. He got me through just fine. Did good. I can remember the whole match from top to bottom. It was so simple.
Oh wow! All right.
Wow.
How
I have a
about,
VHS tape of it somewhere.
that's funny.
Oh yeah.
How about you, Mr. Satu?
My first match was once again for the company that I started in, Southern Wrestling Entertainment (SWE). It was in a I'm guessing it was either I think it was a shutdown daycare, fairly certain. Very low roof. We had a low boy ring in there, and it was me and Madman Pondo for my first match.
Wow.
Wow.
The whole time I'm thinking, don't fuck up, or he will probably fuck you up.
Right. Absolutely.
And yeah, it was probably one of the funnest, easiest matches I've ever had in my entire career. It gave me the confidence to go forward. I was like, hell yeah, if I can do this with this guy, I can do it with anyone.
100%. Absolutely.
Took the stop sign shot my first match. That was very enjoyable too.
100% interesting. All right. I like both those answers.
Yeah.
100%. Madman Paddle, that's crazy.
Mhm.
We've had him as a guest before as well. I think we actually talked to him about you actually as well in that episode. You came up, I believe. It's interesting though. Great start.
So out of all the opponents you have faced over both of your careers, who would you say you feel you have the best in-ring chemistry with?
It's a good question.
Interesting.
That's a
Now,
tough one.
now you actually got him thinking. That's a good one. Interesting.
See, like to
That's-
narrow it down to just one.
You can say a couple. It doesn't necessarily have to be just one.
I can fire off names of people I have great in-ring chemistry.
Go on ahead.
Let's go.
Fire
That's
away.
fine. Go ahead.
Randy West, obviously, Hoodfoot. Let's see here.
Boom.
Literally just had them all come up, and then they.
They're coming.
Randy West, Hoodfoot, Joseph Schwartz, all three of those people. Anytime. Me and Zodi have always had great chemistry for as long as I know. But these are all people I've worked with since the beginning of my career. Also,
Right.
John Wayne, Reed. It's always an easy time.
I believe I've seen you-
Remington Roar.
Yeah.
Love working with Remington Roar.
Yeah.
Kogar. That's probably like the one that's like farthest out there where like the chemistry is just easy as hell. To be fair, I can't really think of too many people I don't really have
Okay.
chemistry with. Like it's not like I feel like the list of people who like the match didn't go super well and it just was off.
It's the opposite way.
Yeah.
It's just shorter than the list of people that I can like go with anytime.
Okay.
100%. Interesting. Those are great answers, though.
Yeah, pretty much same. Like I'm pretty easy to work with. So like chemistry wise, where it just flows. Like I said, me and Satu have had some bangers and that, and we just go out there and go and do it. So that's always a fun night. But me and Hoodfoot, I wrestled Hoodfoot here recently. He's always a good one. Derek Neal, always like the other Derek Neal because like we just get out there and get at it. I like the guys where I can just sit there and chill and not stress it and just get our story together and then get out there and go. I used to love to work with Tracy. Me and Tracy Smothers had great chemistry together because we could just get out there and for 30, 40 minutes and just get at it, heel shtick, this and that. There was somebody else that popped in my head when we were talking a second ago, like people that I work with regularly. Murdoch, because he said it. Murdoch's another one. Murdoch's one. Anytime they threw us together, it was always just we'd piece a few things together and just go out there and make it work and see what everybody was into, and it was always fun.
Interesting.
Nice.
All right. Well, we let Reese get some in, so he can take a small break, I guess. He'll come back with more info and more questions. I'll throw some interesting heavy hitters at you, hopefully. Let's start with one of my first ones. You've both been in the business for quite a bit of time, and you've both wrestled, you've both trained, you've both been around. So I'm assuming you've both been around long enough to see how the industry is and how it's changed throughout many years. To get on TV to actually doing it. If you had the opportunity, what would be one thing that you would change about the industry?
It's a tough one.
Interesting. Oh, now I got it thinking.
Probably more widespread like exposure of some of these more like of independent wrestling as a whole.
Okay.
Like there's like I feel like there's a tier list, and then like as you get down farther and farther down the tier list of like people of like promotions,
Right.
there's so many in that bottom tier that have decent like talent on them. They're just in that bottom tier because they're in the middle of nowhere,
Right.
or because no one really records their shows or something like that. So like I guess overall more exposure, which I mean it's slowly growing with like streaming services like IWTV and Fight, but like if that can continue to keep like a snowball effect of like more and more independents getting exposure.
Gotcha. Okay.
That'd be good.
I
Yeah.
like that one.
I think if I could change one thing, I don't know, one or two things. I wish it was a little more difficult for people to start stuff up and get rolling as far as like a business and
Okay.
promotion. Like a little bit more, I don't want to say policing of stuff,
Right.
but like crack down a little bit more on like the scummy type people, if that makes sense, which we've all worked for them and all dealt with them.
Right.
But, you know, like you kind of, Shad, or Satu, you understand what I'm kind of saying?
That's what I feel like goes with like kind of the exposure when it comes to independent wrestling. Like expose also the creepy fucking backwoods shows that are going on. Get them out of here and let's shine a light on like
The better
community shows or
exactly.
Like they draw the same 300 people for the past 20 years and no one knows who they are.
Right. That way we can kind of like get those bottom tier promotions that do good business and have a good talent roster like up there. And it kind of like pushes down the ones that's like people shouldn't be messing with or that shouldn't even be running, if that makes sense.
Right. Yeah.
I think that would help elevate guys faster too and teach them better faster.
100%. All right. Interesting. I like that. Another one I ask quite often, if you could have a wrestling Mount Rushmore, who would be on it? And the way I see this, whether it's like I said on TV, on Independence, wherever it is, we would prefer you to pick like one main card, like major star, one mid card, or somebody that's decently in the middle, possibly a tag team, and then a woman. Start whenever and whoever and wherever you'd like.
Man, that's a tough one. My top guy's got to be Taker, like just because longevity and stuff, you can't beat it.
100%.
And then just under that, as far as like mid card, and I hate to even put mid card, but that's just because he's Undertaker, would be Muda.
Okay.
Mine would go like probably Taker, Muda, because I like the international exposure on that one.
100%.
Tag teams, probably Rock and Roll Express.
Ooh, that's a good one.
Yeah. And they're a close tie for probably the Minnesota Wrecking Crew. So, or the Midnight Express, but the Rock and Roll Express would probably be the top one out of that. I just think they were the most influential tag team of that time, and they're still still up there.
Right.
Female wise, man, that's a tough
one. There's quite a bit.
Yeah. Female wise, it's a tough one. Because there's a number of them that you could throw out there.
Yeah, we've heard China, we've heard Trish, we've heard Lita, and then we've heard some independents actually. You can't really remember.
That's what makes that one difficult. Because China, you could throw out there because of her influence, but she mainly just did stuff mainstream WWE and was just more of a figure than she was an influence on wrestling. But yeah, that's a tough one. Alundra Blaze pops in my head. Medusa Maselli was like amazing.
That's a really good one too, 100%.
Yeah, she would be up there because her stuff with Bull Nakano and all the feuds she had was up there. And I think one people forget about is Sherry Martel. Sherry Martel is amazing wrestler. She did quite a bit. So, but like, I mean, I'm kind of dating myself too on that one a bit, because you could also like throw Charlotte Flair in there. Honestly, I think as a Mount Rushmore type person, in my opinion, just because she's done a lot over the last several years and went out there and performed on levels like the guys do. So,
100%. Well, there's some really good picks though, nonetheless.
Yeah.
Alrighty, we got Mr. Satu. What do you got? He's still lost.
Really, I mean, I guess if you gotta pick like who I would consider number one is Bruiser Brody. Like that's more of like influential. So that's my bias towards that.
Like it.
Like seeing what he did is fucking beyond anything most ever. Mid card, someone who was kind of always on the mid card, probably Ming. Like that dude was always on the mid card. Well, not really, but he was in the main event there for a little bit. But like everything I've seen, it was like mid card, fucking 8-10 minute or maybe 5-8 minute squash match. tag team. God.
Interesting.
I'm probably got to go with like my favorite tag team, Mount Rushmore tag team. Has got to go the Hooligans. Like those are my boys. And like
All right.
That's
number one, and then like female wrestler is Randy West. Like it's
There you go. That's a really good Mount Rushmore right there too.
mhm.
That's a heck of a 8-person tag right there. You're 4 says 4. Man, oh man, I like it though.
Mhm.
So as we all know, wrestling can be very difficult and help, through it, training, putting your body through all this and that forever, entertainment, and clearly you guys love it with how much you do it. And this, I'm assuming, with this comes injuries and surgeries and severe pains and stuff like that. Um, Other than most likely what the doctor gives you, is there any other types of way that superstars help themselves? And if so, can you tell us a little bit about how you know how it goes on, figuring it out, and what you would do to help, and how does it actually affect it and help in certain ways?
I'd probably say like my thing is like I smoke weed and take a leave. Like it's probably all I do for pain.
From what I've seen, you go through quite a bit sometimes. There's a lot of blood coming out of your body at certain times from certain matches I've seen.
Mhm.
Oh
So
yeah, but that's all
just
just
for a
ice.
leave and just for a leave and a little bit of weed is pretty crazy. But just to, I just sit there, relax, smoke a little weed, having a leave, and I feel better. Like you were just pouring blood in the ring for 20 minutes. Just gonna leave. It's all right. I was not expecting that. It's interesting.
Penicillin.
Right.
Stretch plenty. That helps.
Okay.
Yeah, that's kind of more my thing because like I don't do much as far as like the bleeding and the deathmatch type stuff anymore. Like I did like my share of it here and there, and I'll pop in and do some sometimes, but my stuff's more the hard hitting, strong style type stuff, the stiff matches, the All Japan, Bruiser Brody, Vader, Stan Hansen matches, which like me and Satu have done plenty of those, which they'll leave you sore. But
Mhm.
mine's just like he said, saunas, the hot baths, the stretching,
Gotcha.
yoga. I meditate. Like as far as like I don't smoke really.
Right.
Like I will casually if I'm out with some of the boys here and there. It's something like, hey, you want some? Sure. But, like I'll do edibles and CBD stuff here and there. But like the CBD stuff is usually like non-THC. But
Gotcha.
Darren McCarty's got some really dope stuff as far as
Yeah.
like the TA based stuff and CBD based stuff. His roll one is great. But yeah, I don't. That's about it for me, And I try to work smart, but stretching, yoga, and just listening to your body and recovering is a big thing.
Okay.
I said I've wrestled 3-4 days a week, almost every week for the last 24, 25 years, and I'm still going. So just gotta
100%.
take care of yourself.
Interesting. All right.
A lot of it's mental too, so
Mhm.
Right.
that's more taxing than anything sometimes.
Mhm. Is there from you guys traveled a lot, I'm sure, with wrestling, either by plane, by I assume car as well. Do you have a road trip memory that stands out above all your whole experience as wrestling and just traveling on the road?
Interesting. All right.
Number one for me would be going from Indianapolis to LA or California, pretty much. We did LA and Oakland, and then came back to Indianapolis and then back to my home in Kentucky. That was probably the most memorable trip because it was the longest one.
Okay.
Interesting.
And did you fly? You flew, right?
No, we drove.
You drove. Okay.
Oh wow.
A load of me, myself, Randy West, Joseph Schwartz, and Hoodfoot.
Oh, that sounds
I
fun.
was
Interesting.
gonna say that was either a carload of them or that was a hooligans trip, one of the two.
Yeah, it's one of the two. Like those are the people I usually
All right.
John, it's all East Coast. If it's a story about the East Coast, I'm usually with John.
Right.
Yep.
Interesting. All right.
One of mine was probably I did a loop to Canada. That was a lot of fun. I did a show in Kentucky and then went up to Indianapolis, met up with Haley Shadows in Louisville, and then we shot up to Canada, did a show there, came back down, dropped her off, and then came back through Kentucky, and I hit another show down in Lexington, and then came back home to Northern Kentucky where I'm at. So that was a fun loop and trip as far as a memorable one, because that was my first like out of country trip and whatnot to use the passport and everything else. As far as shenanigans, I mean, there's been all kinds of shenanigans and stuff. Yeah. Trips through Atlanta and everywhere else, like going all the way down to Florida and then back up and working there, and then coming back up through Atlanta and working there, and then coming back up here. I did a trip like that with some of the NWF guys years ago, and with some of them, it was like their first long road trip. And I was like, "Y'all ever been down to Atlanta and worked down there?" And we went to the clubs down there and everything, and it was a wild experience. We had some drunk guy give us a SpongeBob Plankton watch at the Waffle House because he found out we were wrestlers from out of state. And I just remember the whole time he's like, "You know what this is? It's motherfucking Plankton, man. This is for you. This is for you. Because I believe in you guys. I want you to keep this to remember me. I've got this watch still in my memory box." And just at random, I'll run into like Sean the Virus Hard Drive or Tiny Tim, these guys from there, or Dustin Lillard, L Train, and I was looking at me like, "Motherfucking Plankton," and they'll just pop and start laughing because it was just one of those weird, memorable trips.
That's awesome. It's hilarious. Let's retry that. Sorry. All right. So
Speaking of Waffle House things, but Sam Cosby's intermission buffet too. Satu knows all about.
Oh yeah. Good old Crossville, strictly insane.
Good old Crossville.
Nice.
The catering and buffet.
The show that never ends.
Yeah, 32 segments, not matches. Segments.
So we've read that you both have both won multiple titles in different industries, different companies throughout the industry. What would you say is your biggest, highlight career that you've achieved, and what's one of like the next biggest ones you hope to achieve before retiring if you have to?
For me, it was obviously my tour of Japan.
Okay.
Over there and working with legends. And then what I'm hoping to achieve career-wise is like winning a tournament is on number one on my list. Is like
Interesting.
winning
All right.
a few tournaments, whatever's in the cards.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
I'm surprised you haven't won a couple yet, to be honest, because you're out there just constantly busting ass. So
Absolutely.
it will happen. It will happen. I remember he messaged me about the Japan show and Japan tour coming up. He's like, "I need some stuff made, Zodi." I was like, "What do you need?" He sent me the thing. He's like, "I'm going to Japan." I was like, "Oh shit! All right." So we had to hook him up with some cool Japan stuff.
100%.
Oh yeah.
And mine, I don't know. With mine, like I've gotten to do some pretty cool stuff. Me and Schwartz, when we were tagging, we won some pretty cool belts. We had a 0-1 USA tag straps, and then the Heroes and Legends tag straps were kind of cool because we got to defend them against Powers of Pain, Warlord and Barbarian, and a Rock and Roll Express. So that was pretty dope. And then me and Manser had the IWA tag straps for a while and got to do a run with them against Homicide and Kingston. That was pretty dope.
Nice.
I think singles wise, I've had a few of those, like Emerge and this and that local stuff.
Right.
But as far as memorable, I'd say those and like the TPI matches were a lot of fun.
Okay.
Got to do some fun tournaments. Yeah. As far as like to do, my focus this year for the rest of this year is on NWA. I want to go down to NWA and work there. We'll work there again and get more mainstream there. Um, I think that would be good. That and I've been talking to a few guys at OVW too about maybe going up there and doing some stuff. I'm trying to do more like TV stuff.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, a little bit easier on the body for one, and just like I'm very character based and character driven anymore with all the stuff I do. And then like me and Carver are tagging right now and working on that. So that's kind of caught their attention a bit because of the horror stuff. So it's
Okay.
like, oh, we can get you guys in there with pretty much anybody and
Right.
either build somebody up or tear somebody down, whatever we want to do. So
Right.
that's kind of my sights right now.
Okay. Interesting. Well, one of my next questions, and then we'll let Reese get back to his part. You both mentioned, working with legends and talking with legends. Before you mentioned it, the next question I was going to ask actually is, while working with these legends and talking with them, what's one of the biggest pieces of advice, or what's the one of the most, biggest memory that you can, think about and go, oh yeah, I did this, and like smile and like, remember it really well.
Like piece of advice I got from one of the vets working
so
with
like,
him.
so like as you were working with them, they'd be like, oh yeah, here's, this or that, and they'd give you advice for during your match or after, like anything. More thinking. I gotta hit you with some harder questions.
It's what you got is you got 2 long career spans of like
Right. No,
so we gotta
I understand.
shift through basically our Rolodex of like, man, that was pretty cool. That was pretty cool. What's number 1 though?
Right. What's the biggest thing? Yeah, no, 100%. As I said, I gotta get you thinking a little bit at least. Get the brain working a little bit, because he's over here, giving you a few softballs here and there. So I gotta give you a little bit of a twist and a difficult.
Right.
Oh, I feel it. Probably my number 1 thing was working with Rhino.
Okay.
Getting to talk with him, go over a match with him.
Right.
Yeah, that's probably my number 1 there.
I heard that he's, really, old school bass driven, and he's down to do anything, mainly because he, ECW hardcore, he'll do anything.
Right.
So I feel like he'd definitely be a good one to, get advice from or just sit and just listen to. 100%. Interesting.
I know one that always stands out with me was like I did a 2 out of 3 falls with Ken Anderson, with Mr. Anderson.
Wow. All right.
And that one was really fun. He's like a very giving person when he works with somebody.
Right.
Because like I was like built up as a monster and stuff and that for this thing, and I was doing like the horror gimmick and all that.
Right.
And I always thought I was pretty aggressive with it. But even he said that he was like, your stuff is good. He said it's very believable. He said, be more aggressive. I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, stay on him. He's like, just be nasty. He goes, you don't have to be stiff or snug or whatnot. Be snug like you were. He's like, but get your cardio up a little bit more. He's like, and just be aggressive and stick with it. He's like, because you've got a character. He's like, don't be afraid to wrestle. He's like, but just aggressive, nasty. And then we were supposed to work again, but the place I was working, they ended up kind of like not running again after a while. Like before he came back, they ended up shutting down. And that was up in Indy, I think. Yeah. That was a fun one though. That one I learned quite a bit from him. So.
Right. Okay.
Outside the ring, I didn't get to work with him much, but a legend that had a lot of influence on me would be Tracy Smothers.
Okay.
Nice.
Like, listening to him talk, like I remember plenty of nights I stayed the night at the school he was running, and just listening to him talk all night about wrestling.
Right.
Is where I got majority of like, all right, I could get this. Yeah, this makes sense. Yeah. All right, this goes here. Okay.
Tracy was great.
Yeah, he had a real way of talking to you and making things click.
Okay.
Nice.
He could simplify stuff for pretty much anybody to make them understand it, which was always good.
Nice.
Awesome.
When you stated earlier that if you could change one thing about wrestling, it would be, making it a little bit more difficult to have a promotion or a business. Would you say either of you have experienced backstage politics?
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
A little bit. Not much.
Not like dire, crazy, nothing like that. But it's it's unavoidable in some extent. It's just a matter of how you let it affect you, though.
And would you say you've experienced it like younger, or just would you say it's continuous like throughout your career?
It's always gonna be a thing.
Okay.
Yeah. It's just different levels depending on where you're at, and the higher up you get on cards, and like the bigger shows you get to, like it's just going to be a part of things. What's funny is like I found the smaller cards have the biggest egos sometimes. The guys that are up there really making money and stuff, they don't care. They're just like, bro, it's we're out here to work and this and that. Like I'm getting paid regardless. It's like it's about the whole show and this and that. It's always like the small nowhere promotions where you get like the egos of people, like the local champ, this and that, and everything else. I found it more there than anywhere, which I always thought was odd and crazy.
Wow.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And that could just be my experience. I don't know, but
Right.
Mm-hmm.
No, I
And
100% agree with that.
mm-hmm.
Like,
yeah.
there's
Have you
plenty-
noticed that though? Like the bigger the shows you get to, like the less drama and ego a lot of times it is.
Yeah. Because
Until you get up to like that upper echelon, like the Fed shows and stuff and that. But
Nice. And we've had wrestlers, state that they experienced it, throughout their career. So they said that it is continuous.
Interesting.
And so out of all the opponents you faced, who would you say would be like your toughest opponent? And I know you guys faced a lot, and it doesn't necessarily have to be just one. It could be a couple.
Interesting.
toughest as in what? Like
Like tough, not like toughest, like
Strength,
size, strength, stuff like that.
Size wise, or like
because I know usually sometimes they'll do.
match-wise.
I would say like it could be size, it could be match. Just what you would consider to be a tough opponent.
Shane Mercer is the strongest guy I've ever been in a ring with.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
hands down.
As far as pure strength, and I've been in a ring with like some big dudes. But as far as like just pure strength, as crazy as to say, because he's not a big guy, he's the strongest person I've ever been in a ring with.
All right.
As far as toughness, and just beat the shit out of you,
What's coming?
probably Vader. I got to do a gimmick with him, and he's just stiff though. Like or was stiff, bless him. He was just stiff though. He just maul you.
Mm-hmm.
And I got old Vader, so like I'd hate to see young Leon out there ready to get at it. Like,
that clothesline was terrible.
yeah, he'd murder you. So
it's an actual tree trunk hitting you right there.
Yeah.
Good lord.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
I gotta give it up to the Necro Butcher. He gave me a few times.
I forgot about him. Yep, I forgot about Necro. How the hell did I forget about him? Jesus.
Okay, yep. That's real.
That's a real. Yep, I've heard
what people say is real. It's
yep.
It's definitely real.
Those punches.
100%. It is. Oh man.
Kicks you with them bare grizzly feet.
Oh,
bruh.
God. So my first IWA show was in like 2002, I want to say.
okay.
And this was when they were down in Clarksville at the like the storage buildings and stuff. And that was when like they had Hero, Punk, Jerry Lynn coming in, Necro, like Skinny Cash Flow. And I went with Tarek the Great. Tarek the Great, and me and him were doing an angle at NWF for Roger, and he goes, "I need to get you down to IWA." I was on a totally different gimmick then. I wrestled as I'll throw this out there. I wrestled as the average white guy.
Okay.
So yeah, and it was like this like suburban kid that thought he was cool but wasn't. Tried to dance, this and that, and everything else, but he could wrestle.
Interesting.
And yeah, so it was a cheesy ass gimmick. Picture Scotty Too Hottie before he was Scotty Too Hottie. It was kind of that.
Just
And yeah, it was just Scott Taylor. So I went down to IWA with him, and they had us in a battle royal gimmick. And the gimmick with the battle royal was the elimination of the people determine the matches. Okay. And it was going to be me and Tarek. Since I was Tarek's boy coming down, I was going to wrestle him for my first show there. And Necro snatches me. I'm like, good Lord. I'm maybe 230 at the time. I'm skinny at this point.
Right.
Like 21 years old. And he gives me some shots, not stiff and some solid shots. I'm like, all right. And he just starts chopping. boom, boom. I'm like, all right, I'll take my licks, boom, 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 boom. I was like, when he stops, I'll spin him or I'll cut him off. And he just keeps going, keeps going, keeps going, keeps going. I'm like, well, all right, I'm man up, take it, bow, 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 bow. Finally, after about 10, I cut him off and grab him by the eyes and I spin him around. I give him a forearm, I give him a big chop, boom. And I hear him grin and chuckle. He goes, I was wondering how long you'd wait to spin me around, kid. Good job. I'm like, oh my God. He's just chuckling. He was just waiting for me to spin him, seeing how long I would sit there and let him chop me.
Oh man.
He got back in the back and he came up and big old thing on the neck. He's like, you're all right, kid. Like,
you got this. You can do this. All right.
That was my introduction to Necro Butcher.
Your chest
those were fun. Those days were so weird times, but they were fun.
Good Lord. Your poor chest was on fire.
Mhm.
Oh, yeah. I wasn't calloused at that point at all.
Oof. I think I'm going to steal one of his questions now. Since he always asks it, I'll change it up a little bit. As a wrestler, going through it as you are now, what would you go back and tell a younger version of yourself, whether you were going to be a wrestler growing up or not? Like, what would you, as a wrestler, knowing what you do now, what would you go back and tell yourself?
Get out and travel more sooner.
Okay.
If I'm going to wrestle, get out and travel more sooner.
Okay.
Yeah, and take more chances. Don't stay in one place as much. I think that was kind of one of my bad points, was I would stay in one place so long and focus so much on helping the other people that I didn't go out and do my own stuff and really take advantage of some of the opportunities that I had. Aside from that, do something else with your life. No.
Besides that, do something better.
Do something.
Don't
go to
kill.
college. Go to school first. Go to school. Get a trade.
Finish school and do better things. Alrighty, I like that. What about you, Mr. Satu? What do you got?
Not to get sappy, but I would have told my younger self to take the pictures. Like, there's a lot of friends I've got that I've lost over the years that I wish I would have gotten more pictures with and enjoyed more time with. And like now I've kind of like slowed down and try to make sure those moments are like preserved.
100%. Most definitely. Definitely understand that one right there.
Nice.
It was odd because that was always kind of frowned on and drilled into us not to really do, especially if names showed up or whatnot,
right,
to get pictures with people. And the weird thing is, what I found out was when I started taking pictures with people that had a name and notoriety was out there, right. I started asking some of them, like over the last, say, 5 to 10 years, like, how do you guys feel about taking pictures with like us coming up getting pictures with you or a guy like that? And he was like, do it. Why would you not?
Right,
like, we're not going to be around forever, like, get the
Yeah.
picture. I asked Billy Gunn and a couple of them guys that, and they was like, brother, get all the pictures you can. You think we don't take pictures? That's just silly. He's like, it's not being a mark or this or that, don't act a fool, but get your pictures. Like, we're not going to be around forever, especially with your friends, and it's like, yeah, we might just be getting a silly picture right now, but we might do 5, 10 more shows together down the road and become buddies, or something might happen to one of us. Like, get that stuff.
Right. You never know.
Anything's
possible. 100%. Interesting. I like that.
If you, another question sort of on the same line, but if you could give just any piece of advice to a younger wrestler or just a younger individual coming up in the industry, what would you tell them?
Go, Satu, go.
Get out there. Like Zodi said about his younger self. Get out there and take more chances. Like 100%. Like majority of my matches, didn't no one slide in my DMs and was like, hey, I want to bring you in.
Yeah.
Like, that only recently happened in the last like 4 or 5 years. Like before that, it was just hopping in cars and praying that I got something and praying that they paid me at the end of the night. But I gained a lot of experience and the ring time, that precious ring time in different locations. I can't stress how important that is like getting out there in front of different crowds and different people and seeing what works here, what doesn't work there, and just mixing up those styles, mixing up those minds. the best. It's the best part about this business, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's one of the best things. Yeah. I mean, anytime I do like because I do some little seminars here and there, and it's mainly over like character development, psychology, things like that. And I tell everybody the same thing, kind of like what he said. Get out there and travel. Like even if it's on your own dime, get out there and travel, jump in cars, experience different styles of wrestling and people, and that way you kind of find your niche and learn how to work with everybody. Like I know guys that and I wish I would have done this. I'm starting to do it now and look more into it. But even if you like go over to Europe or somewhere, if you can get work lined up, and even if you have to, some people frown on it, but I know guys that have done it. Even if you have to pay your way over there at first, just to get the experience and the exposure and whatnot, and get your name out there, go. Because I mean, I've seen guys like Jake Oman and so many other guys like there's like I'll get work lined up and they'll just go. Like I have plenty of contacts over there to where I could get work and stay with people, but it's getting the travel over there. Right. So if you can fit the bill a couple times and invest in it, Bob Evans even talks about this. He's like, save you some money and go, and then you can bill yourself as an international talent, learn all this stuff and make these connections, and it'll pay off in the long run. Don't be afraid to do that, and don't be ashamed of doing that. There's nothing wrong with that. You're learning a craft and a trade and whatnot, and it'll pay for itself if you really want to do it. There's no shame in investing in your career. That's what I look at it as. I know for the longest time people was like, oh, if you've got to pay your way over there, what have you really done? If you can get somebody to pay for your travel, that's great. It's awesome. It makes a world of difference. It makes you feel good. But there's nothing wrong with investing in yourself too and saying, hey, I'm going to go over to Europe for 3 weeks and fly myself and see how much work I can get and hit all these shows and learn everything I can. It's going to cost me $1,000 to go spend this 3 weeks and fly over there. Okay. I paid $1,200, $1,500 for wrestling training. Why wouldn't I invest in that?
Oh, yeah.
Nothing wrong with that. And if you can group it up and go with a few buddies, that's even better. Split it. Go down to Mexico. Go up to Canada. Go to Australia. There's work everywhere, and everybody wrestles different. So
definitely interesting.
Yeah, there's a good point in there too. There's work everywhere, so don't put too much emphasis on one or two particular places. Go work.
Yeah,
the bigger places, they'll come or they won't. That's just the nature of the beast. But there's work, like what Zodi said, there's work everywhere, and you never know what's going to be the next big thing, honestly, in this business.
Yeah, that's true too. And you don't know who's going to be at these smaller shows either. You never know who they're going to book or who's going to be there hanging out. Even some of the big shows, like, oh, well, why would I go just hang out at even one of the big shows? Like, I'm not on. I kind of look silly just standing around hanging out. Why? Go to, if you want to go to GCW or NWA or, wherever, go hang out and say, hey, I'm so-and-so, I'm Zodi, blah, blah, blah. If you need help with anything, let me know. If you're short a worker, I've got my gear too if you want to check out my stuff. I came with Satu. I came with Shane Mercer, blah, blah, blah. There's nothing wrong with that. Hang out. I went to Derby City Wrestling up there in Louisville 3 or 4 times just because I knew the people on the show and to hang out. And I wasn't booked. Initially, I thought I was booked on one of them because they had a guy call off. But by the time I got there, they filled the spot. But I ended up helping in the back with production and stuff on a couple shows. And that turned into some other bookings. I didn't get paid to go there. Right. But, I went, hung out, made some good contacts, and it's paid off in the long run. So, I mean, you got to extend yourself and take risk to loss and everything else sometimes.
Right.
And don't be embarrassed to do it. Don't make an ass out of yourself, but don't be embarrassed to go out there.
Most definitely.
Cool, bro.
Nice.
All right. That's interesting. I believe we'll have enough time for each of us to ask 1 or 2 more questions, and then we'll get ready to head out. It's been almost an hour. Crazy to think. But I have a bunch of questions done. One of my bigger questions that I like to ask, and being just curious, is what's one of the matches that you're most proud of that you've taken a part of, and why? Another thinker. I know. I'm sorry. That
I
is
guess I'll go with a more like it. I'm not gonna flip through like my entire thing of memories. I'm just gonna
no,
go
no,
with
no.
the
Right.
recent one because it's it means a lot to me, honestly.
Right.
But recently, winning the XCF title here, it was the original backyard promotion that I had started in with Shane Mercer and like Aiden Blackheart, and then we went professional, and then Shane decided to make the company itself go professional. So once it finally got on the once it finally got up and running, getting to perform there, building the crowd, and then working with everyone, Zodi, freaking Reed, everyone in that match, and then winning the title at the end was it's going to be a highlight of my career. Like it means a lot to me because it was something that was a childhood. Like it was just me fucking around in the ring as a kid. Like I had no intentions of this ever being what it is today.
Right.
When I was backyard wrestling, when I came into professional wrestling, I had goals.
Okay. I like that answer.
Oh, that's a tough one. I've had a number of them that meant a lot. Like I knew the backstory with the one he was just talking about. So like I was like kind of hyped to be in that and see him get that
Okay.
because that meant a lot.
100%.
And then Cody Hawk's promotion when Cody Hawk's promotion had their last show, FGW because they're not running anymore. Me and Eric Fallon had been wanting to do a match for quite a while, for years, and we got to have our first match and everything else on the last FGW show. So that was pretty hype and pretty cool.
Interesting.
Man, I don't know. There's been a number of them that meant a lot.
Interesting. I
can tell you one of my favorite matches, honestly, that stands out. It's going to sound kind of weird, but the second TPI show that I was on, I want to say it was the 2017 one. Me and Calvin Tankman worked in the first round of that. And that was one of the ones when I first started doing lucha stuff and everything. And Calvin was just getting out there. And that was like a sleeper match. And I remember they came up to me and was like, this is one of the matches that they're kind of worried about, being on the bar for TPI because that card was stacked pretty good. And like growing up, TPI like was one of the big things that I watched. I wanted to be a part of, which I know there's a stigma with IWA and this and that because, Ian ain't always been the best of people, but he's had his good moments, bad moments, but whatever. But like that one, I felt like we really proved a point on that match because Calvin showed out and showed like he's one of the best big guys out there, and people still come up to me and talk about that match.
Right.
And the way we structured it, and I got to do the lucha stuff and evolve my character a bit, and that's where that whole thing started. So like that one's got a special place for me. Just for some reason, it always stands out.
Right.
Man, there's a plethora of them, though.
Interesting. I like those.
Nice.
My last question. This is a little bit of a thinker too. Hopefully, this is a little bit easier though. What's one dream match you wish you could take part of? So it'd be like you against a person that you've always wanted to wrestle, whether they're passed away or not. And then what type of match? If there's a ref, who would it be? That type of thing. It could be any type of match as well. Solo, tag team, fatal 4-way, whatever.
What you got, Satu?
I would really like to see what I could have learned and how I would have stacked up to like Bruiser Brody,
Okay.
Abdullah in his prime,
Right.
in Prime Ming. Like I'd like to see how a match myself would have gone during that time.
Okay.
I would also like to understand how I would have stacked up during that time period in general, just
Right,
the mid '80s, early '90s wrestling.
right. Oh boy, Andre and Satu would be crazy.
Yeah, there's so many from that era that I'm just like, man,
Satu and
really?
Kamala, Satu and George Steele. Oh man, you got a bunch. It's crazy.
So yeah, I had a few on my bucket list that I know I'll never see and probably never see, but my highlight match was always me and Muda in Japan at probably like at Korakuen Hall or at the Tokyo Dome. Like
Okay.
that was my like
Heck yeah. I love that.
grandioso one right there. It was that, and then I always would have loved to work with Terry Gordy.
Okay.
Terry Gordy was one of my bucket list guys. Was just like I would have loved to work with him back in the day, you
Yeah.
know. And then Kabashi. When Kabashi came over and worked with Joe in the States, I was 10 kinds of jealous of that one.
Right.
I was like happy for Joe, but it's like that's another one that was like
me.
yeah, you know. And Ming's up there too. Like those are my four. Like I have the four, and those are my which are all pretty much meat grinder matches except for Muda, you know.
100%.
But I guess why me and Satu get along so well because like a lot of our guys are the same.
Yeah, those are definitely
our styles that we like.
yeah, definitely some great picks. I definitely did not see those ones coming. I thought more so for 80s and 90s, but I didn't think he'd go with like the big hitters right away. That was pretty crazy. That's interesting. I like that though.
I want Top of the Mountain 90%.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah. You're gonna go for it. Go for it.
So down the line, like years from now, when both of you retire from wrestling, would you still like to be involved in wrestling, but outside of the ring, like working for a promotion, but like behind the scenes
Manager,
work, like
producer,
creative work, stuff like that, or
writer.
more coach and teaching with seminars and character development?
That really all just depends for me. I'm kind of humble in the aspect of like I don't really think too many people want to hear my creative input on a match besides like the homies who like know me. But as far as like the next generation trying to listen to me about how a match should be structured or anything like that, I don't see too many people coming to me for that to be a career. I might find a show that I might continue having working relationships with, like with friends and stuff like that. It all depends on who's still around and how long I'm around. Really,
If you guys keep killing it, doing good jobs the way you guys are right now, death matches might become more of a household item type of thing and stuff like that. So we might need people to explain to these people how to take certain shots and do certain things.
this is true.
You never know.
Yeah,
There's
they're starting to get listed in,
way better at it than me. Like,
they're starting to get listed in PWI and everything now. You never know.
100%, right. Interesting.
I mean, on my end, like I've gotten to do some seminar stuff, and I get asked to do some here and there still for. And when I promote it, I get asked to do it more. But like for the psychology and character stuff,
Right.
I don't see people necessarily coming to me like maybe to fully structure a match or a card. Like I will have people ask me, "Hey, should I put this here? Should I put that there? What do you think about this?"
Right.
But like I'm not the most athletic guy, but like I understand character work and psychology and doing little tiny things and getting the most out of them. A la my Jake Roberts. I got this Jake Roberts candle at Square Circle Expo. It's
Nice.
That's super.
That was my one takeaway I got from there. So I found I really enjoy that and helping people develop their character and find little nuances that makes it stand out and simplifying it. And I also make wrestling gear and stuff. So it's like I kind of incorporate that in there too because I'm particular on details. So I don't know if I would do it as a career thing unless a good opportunity presented itself. But I do like doing that. And like when my in-ring time comes to an end, I wouldn't mind doing that. And I'll still keep making gear and stuff because I like doing that anyway. But,
Okay. Interesting. Nice.
No, whatever. We're at an hour, I believe.
Yeah, you got one more.
Yeah. So let's see here. So I wanted to ask you, Satu, about the very first match I got to see you in person was at RPW, and it was Boiling Point in November of 21. And it was you fought Dale Patricks for the RPW deathmatch belt.
Oh, hell yeah.
Yeah, and I just remember that match. I remember seeing it looked like he had a red shirt on. It was you were just covered in blood, both yours and Dale's. And I remember you broke a light tube literally in like a foot away from where I was sitting and sprayed me with glass. So with the because I know you've done death matches and stuff like that. What would you say is your favorite weapon? I know you've done, light tubes and barbed wire stuff like that. Do you have a per se favorite weapon in death matches?
Yeah, of course. It's
Let's
my
ask
favorite
that.
weapon.
What's your
The
favorite
weapon.
to use, and what's your least favorite to
Yeah.
get used on?
Yeah.
Oh wait, what's my favorite weapon to use, and what's my least favorite to get used on me?
Yes. Let's do that.
Okay. Favorite to use is obviously the one I've always got on me is my katana. Like I
Yeah.
love scalping people. Like that's number one.
Okay.
Least favorite
Yeah.
to have used on me is probably I gotta go with carpet strips.
Okay.
Ooh. Okay.
Fan of them. I'll use them, but they're not like I don't know. The
Right.
juice isn't worth the squeeze when it comes to carpet strips to me.
That's fair.
Yeah, I was gonna say, yeah, you don't get the response and reaction out of them for what you have to get. That's the one thing I have a scar on my back from. I gave Toby Klein a senton with carpet strips across him, and like I got the worst end of it because it raked up my back, and like I went back and watched it, and it didn't even look like anything. I was like, well, that sucked.
Oh,
That
was
hurt.
fun, but yeah.
Doesn't poke enough to like get blood. It just hurts.
Yeah, yeah.
And then splinters, if you break it, like it's.
Mhm.
It's
It's
fair.
like a cat got a hold of me.
Oof. Those are some interesting choices because yeah, we've definitely seen a lot throughout the years. I've seen, or well, out the years and the time.
Mhm.
I've seen you wrestle a few different times at RPW against Zach and Dread King, and I've seen light tubes, baseball bats, tables, glass panes, thumbtacks, Legos, a trampoline with just barbed wire for some reason,
Caribbean spider bit.
everything and anything. What else? Cheese graters, pizza cutters, so skewers. So there's so much options that like the crowd comes up with or you guys come up with. So it's just crazy to think about all that. And then for some of the things that come up and come out. So that was interesting. Those are interesting choices. I'm not too surprised by them. Makes perfect sense. I kind of figured it'd be definitely a katana or something close to that. So that's fair. But yeah, we've definitely seen quite a bit throughout all of your matches. That's pretty crazy. You definitely take quite a bit and you definitely dish it out. It's wild, man.
He's a madman.
He really is a madman. It's crazy. Is there anything possibly you guys could talk about coming up for either one of you that you'd like to throw out?
You got coming up, Satu.
Shit. I'll be around Mania weekend. We'll
Okay.
see where I'll pop up. You never know.
Fair.
We've got Flophouse Wrestling in Detroit. I
Mhm.
couldn't tell you where exactly. I just know it's May 18th.
Okay. May 18th, Flophouse Wrestling.
Yeah, May 18th.
We'll be there.
Flophouse Wrestling. That's
Nice.
literally the only thing I can think of right now off the top of my head.
Okay.
I don't have anything coming up this weekend as of right now. That might change.
All right.
I know the 11th. I have Appalachian Mountain Wrestling down in Kentucky.
Okay.
That's a showcase. I think it's a showcase champion show. They're going to have Ricky Steamboat there and stuff, so that should be pretty cool.
Oh, that's super cool.
Yeah, and then the 13th, I got something. The 13th, I've got War Wrestling up in Lima, Ohio.
Okay.
So yeah, there's a number of things for April. April's pretty busy.
That's
The 20th, I'll be up in Michigan for Mid Death. We're doing a show up there, so that should be fun.
nice.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
then there's another one that Friday, but I can't. It's like 4PW or something. It's a smaller promotion. It's in Indiana. I'm working with a younger kid there, kind of helping him out. I can't remember much about that one though. It's a newer thing.
Okay.
So yeah, that's all I can remember off the top of my head. April's pretty busy though.
100%. Interesting. All right. Awesome. Thank you guys for joining us.
Thank you so much.
It's been a
Thank
great
you.
time to talk, guys.
Appreciate it. You guys.
Before-
Satu, always fun to share a platform with you.
Oh yeah, anytime. You already know.
We need to hit some cars and bars and roads and rings and rats and stuff. Wait, we don't do that no more. Crap, can't do that.
Right. We'd love to have you guys on again eventually, by the way. Always. We'll get in contact with you guys about that again. Hopefully in person, possibly. It'd be awesome. I feel like it's always more fun in person, but this was still a great time.
Yeah.
However,
Yeah, we'll get an in-person thing set up at some point. That'd be fun.
Oh yeah, 100%. That'd be awesome. Before we go, once again, we'd like to thank our sponsors, which is the Mint Cannabis Smoker Society, Insane Wrestling Revolution, 8 Mile Vodka, Amaya's Fresh Mexican Grill, Lane's Pizzeria, The Little Brown Jug, Pro Wrestling Edge, Craving Sports Cards and Collectibles, Nerdy Designs, Dudes Talking Wrestling, and Cilantro. Thank you all for your love and support on each and every episode. Once again, I'm Brother Paul. That's Reese. Of course, our esteemed guests, Satu, Jinn, and Michael Zodiac. Once again, thank you guys for being here. If there's anything we could do to help them get closer to you, let us know. When I mean, like wrestling wise, we can hook you up with some of their info, of course. And from there, we say goodbye and good night to everyone.
Have a great
Adios.
night, everyone.
Have a good one, guys.
Brought to you by BrainJerk. Fuck yeah!